council chambers is going to be a busy place this week as the mayor and councillors go through the city budget line by line, weighing 3 different property tax scenarios. Council initially approved a 3% property tax increase for 2020, but is now looking at what an increase of 1.5% would look like, and even what a tax freeze would look like. Now, we do know some of the impacts. A tax freeze would see more than $8 million cut from the police budget. There would also be deep cuts to fire and emergency services. Transit would take a hit, and 236 city workers would lose their jobs. A 1.5% increase would see property taxes go up about $30 a year. 178 city jobs would be lost, and there would be a $3.4 million cut for fire and emergency services. A 3% increase would see the average homeowner pay about $60 more a year, just over $5 a month, and police and fire would be protected.
Zero could work if we are able to do the type of service line review that we had asked for over a year ago. Some of my colleagues have been asking for several years. And I think there's a disconnect in the language that we use as members of council versus what administration is interpreting from it.
And if we don't want to make those cuts and we want to maintain our snow removal services and the maintenance of our parks and all these wonderful things that give us the quality of life we have, then we as and again, I'm speaking as a residential homeowner, we need to be able to say, okay, I'm willing to participate and be part of the solution.
A rally is planned at City Hall for 8:45 this morning prior to City Council beginning its deliberations at 9:30. Danielle Smith from 770 CHQR joins us this morning to continue the conversation on this story. And Danielle, some really tough decisions to make. Surveys have shown citizens don't want service cuts or higher taxes. So what's the best case scenario?
Well, I think the best case scenario is for them to try to find some process improvements. I think people are watching this and they're scratching their heads saying, seriously? The $3.5 billion operating budget, and you're struggling to find a 1.5% savings. That's what $50 million amounts to. And you can't do it without cutting essential services like police and fire and transit. I think that there's a credibility gap here because everybody in this city knows what their own corporations have gone through. We've been on the front lines watching how it is that private sector companies have got their budgets back into some kind of alignment, reduced their overall operating costs. And we're watching the city, who has not gone through that discipline for the last 5 years, acting as if it is some monumental challenge that is an outrageous ask. I don't think people believe it. I think people are asking them to just get down to business, do it, preserve the services that are important. You never hear of them cutting managers. You never hear of them cutting the triple pensions that they're paying to some people. You never hear of them cutting the outside consultants. Why is it that it is always the services that residents care about the most that are first on the chopping block? I think that's the real problem that City Council faces, is that people are questioning whether they're up to the job.
What about those who say, it is just really an extra $5 a month if it is going to protect these critical services that we need? We already have such low property taxes. Does it really make that big of a difference?
Well, I agree on the residential property tax side because my listenership is in the Calgary area, and so you've got people who live in communities outside of Calgary who are all scratching their heads saying, wow, Calgary pays way less in residential property taxes than I do, and even people who've moved here from other provinces as well. So for years and years, they have bragged about having the lowest property tax rates on residents in the country and loaded it up on the business side. So the model's now broken because the business side can't take anymore. And they've already got residents accustomed to the fact that they don't want to see their rates go higher. So there has to be a balance. I think that the reasonable thing to do would be to freeze the business side because businesses cannot take any greater hit, have a reasonable increase on the residential side, but then just do the hard work of finding $50 million in savings from the non-essential areas. I think that that's what the expectation of city taxpayers is.
All right, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much, Danielle.
Thank you.
And you can listen to Danielle Smith at 9:30 to 12:30.